Hey everybody, it's Marisa Murgatroyd, founder of Live Your Message and Superhero Summits. So give us a quick note in the chat letting us know that you can see us and hear us because we want to make sure that we're talking to somebody and not just the ether. So Murray and I are broadcasting today from this really little hilltop town in the south of France, and we call it a 2 megabit town, because that's the speed of the internet connection that we've got right now. So if I ever look fuzzy or turn into the Matrix, that's okay. We've still got some amazing people on the line, and we're just doing the best that we can with the internet that we've got. So we're super, super excited to be here today because we're kind of in the run-up for the Online Business Superhero Summit, and we really wanted to give you a chance to meet a few of our superheroes and also learn some cutting-edge online business strategies before the summit actually goes live and starts on July 7th. So I'm super excited to introduce Michael Drew, Alexis Neely, and Ryan Levesque. And these are all entrepreneurs that I just know and I love, and I've gotten to know them all fairly well over the last year or two. So before we begin and hand over the reins to each of our superheroes, I wanted to let you know a little bit about this event. So as you know, this is a live streaming Google Hangout on Air. So if there's any kind of hiccups whatsoever with your broadband, it might cause the picture or the sound to freeze. So the best way to stop that is to simply refresh your browser, and usually that solves the problem. Next thing is you're going to want to log into the chat box, which is to the right. And just log in using whatever social profile you want to connect to people on, and you can interact with us throughout the presentation. All of our superheroes are there in the chat, and we've got Murray, also known as Neo, the master of the code, who is there too, kind of fielding your questions. Also, we've got social share buttons to the left, and if you just want to give us a like, a share, a tweet, we'd really appreciate it. We're trying to build a movement, a community of people who are committed to getting their message out online and really using all the tools and technologies to make a massive difference with what they do and what they know. And next thing is, if you want to pre-register for the Online Business Superhero Summit, which is coming up starting on July 7th through the 18th, there's a button right below this video, and you can just log in right there using that button, and you'll get the first news and updates about the summit. All right, so I'm just going to get started with our superheroes, and first up we've got Michael Drew, and Michael Drew is a pretty extraordinary guy, so if you want to come on the line, Michael, so we can see you. Hey there.
Hey, Marissa.
All right, and it's actually his daughter's birthday, so he's going to kind of come on, give us some information, and then bounce off and go to like Disney World or something, right?
Yeah, we're going to. It's her 10th birthday. We're going to go down to SeaWorld in San Antonio. So.
All right. So SeaWorld. So first question, I just wanted to know if you can share your story and your background a little bit, how you kind of rose up in the online business world, and maybe a few things that we don't know about you.
Sure. I think that probably the best place to start is that I'm a high school dropout, and I got married at the age of 18. And I was managing a Burger King, and my wife at the time said, you're too smart to manage a Burger King. You got to go get another job. So I got a job offer from a company in South Provo called Executive Excellence, which was a division of the Covey Leadership Center before it merged with Franklin. It became Franklin Covey. And within 3 months, I became the #3 salesperson at the magazine, which is only significant because the number 1, 2, and 4, and 5 salespeople had been there for 5+ years and were just renewing subscriptions. So I came in and within 3 months was generating new revenue for the company. And at that time, the merger between Franklin and Covey occurred, and they became Franklin Covey. And the executive editor of the magazine, his name is Ken Shelton, was given the magazine by Stephen R. Covey as payment for being the ghostwriter for 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I was 18 and a half at the time, and Ken came to me and he said, hey, Mike, we publish all these great business authors in our magazines. Why don't we start publishing their books? And as a young, naive 18-and-a-half-year-old, I said, sure, why not? And that's exactly what we did. And I failed for a full year. But I worked really hard and learned a lot about publishing, traditional publishing, and got a job offer from a gentleman in Austin, Texas by the name of Ray Bard. He owns a company called Bard Press, which is one of the most premier book publishing companies in the English-speaking language. And the first day on the job, Ray Bard said to me, he said, Michael, what our authors want more than anything else in the world is to be a New York Times bestselling author. What I want you to do is go figure out how the New York Times bestseller list works. As a 19-and-a-half-year-old, I said, sure, why not? And the very first book I worked on was by a gentleman by the name of Roy H. Williams, who's known as the Wizard of Ads, as in advertising. And we launched the book to #3 on the New York Times and #1 on the Wall Street Journal. What I very quickly learned as a publisher was that it's never about the book. The book is simply a tool, a mechanism to be able to build out a platform. And what I became a student of was understanding how information marketing and thought leaders, businesses, and platforms worked. And I was able to become a student of marketing and advertising. And over the years, I left publishing after being in publishing for 5 years and started my own marketing and advertising agency, building information and thought leadership businesses. And as a marketing expert, it's my goal to be able to understand cultural and social trends, because I want to be able to give my clients a competitive advantage over their competitors. And to do that, we have to be able to predict what our customers' clients want before they know that they want that. And so, as a marketer, my first best-selling author, Roy H. Williams, and I went back and researched the last 3,000 years of recorded Western civilization. Now, I've worked with some of the top thought leaders in the world, like Harv Eker, Laura Langemeier, John Assaraf, Gary Keller. My list is a who's who in traditional business, personal development, and internet marketing. And what I noticed around 2007 was that the personal development and business development industries were starting to take a pretty steep dive in revenue. And my mentor and first best-selling author, Roy H. Williams, had put together a theory back in 2003 called the pendulum theory. And in that theory, he stated that there are two 40-year cycles of me versus we. And so I started researching this work that Roy had done, and he and I together decided to go back and research the last 3,000 years of recorded Western civilization, looking for a pattern in the way society changes. And what we found was that there are these two 40-year cycles of me versus we, and that as of 2003, we moved from a cycle of me to a cycle of we. And as part of that, what we noticed was that consumers, our audience, our clients, customers, changed the way that they engaged with with those businesses. That the way that consumers wanted to be communicated with was very distinctly different. So the push technology of direct marketing that works so well in a me cycle was in conflict with what worked in a we cycle, where it's about pull. In a me cycle, which would have been 1963 to 2003, it's about push. It's about seduction. It's about the individual. It's about trying to be bigger and better than who you actually are. But in a we cycle, which we're in today, it's about intimacy. It's about relationship. It's about community. Now, all those things are great, and broadly, I think we all can agree that that's true. But that doesn't help me as a marketer or Roy as an advertising agency to be able to help our clients better communicate. So what we did is we went out and researched human psychology, looking for the best tools from human psychology to be able to better meet the needs of our customers. And there's several tools that we developed with Brian Jeffrey Eisenberg, things like persona architecture. But what we're going to be talking about on the summit with you is one very specific tool, and it's based upon the work of clinical researcher and psychiatrist Desmond Morris from the 1960s. Now, this I don't mean to sound gross here, but what occurred was Desmond Morris was researching if the Homo sapien species, as a primate, was a pair bonding species or if it was a promiscuous species. And what happens is in primates, based upon the size of the male genitalia, will define whether that primate is promiscuous or pair bonding, and human males fit smack in between. So there was a real question as to what would happen. And so what he did is he went back and researched how Homo sapien couples mate and the steps that they go through. And what he developed was what we call the 12 steps of intimacy. And what he found was that for any relationship to survive, that to be a long-term relationship, that you had to follow each of those 12 steps at the foundational level of that relationship. And what Roy and I noted, well, if we're in a we cycle where it's about community and relationship, I don't know if for you, Marissa, but for me, an interpersonal relationship and a business relationship, it's pretty close. I mean, maybe the end result isn't exactly the same, but relationship is what we're aiming for in a we cycle. And so what we did is we adapted this work that Desmond Morris did in human intimacy towards business intimacy with our customers. And that's what we're going to be talking about. What we're literally going to be talking about is why a sales funnel worked beautifully in a me cycle, but is dead in a we cycle, and will give you the replacement for a sales funnel by understanding the 12 steps of intimacy to develop a relationship with your customer.
Oh, wow. So I think you managed to answer all of my questions in one go without me even having to ask the questions, which is why we represented you as Dr. Evil, because you are able to
Well,
kind of. What's that?
there's got to be one of us. Well, and the thing is, from a internet marketing standpoint, most internet marketing is based upon an application of direct marketing, which worked beautifully in the MeCycle. And you know this. I have a mixed reputation out there because I come from the space of corporate America and relationships, where it's not about push or direct marketing, but about intimacy and building community and relationship. And so a lot of what we teach that we know that works for our clients in a WeCycle is contrary to what a lot of the direct marketers teach. So I think Dr. Evil is a fair description when you compare me to other internet marketers.
Well, I think you are really, really a mastermind. And so we right now we're in a WeCycle, right?
We are. We are 11 years into a WeCycle. So that means we have another 29 years before we move back into a MeCycle. So those of you that love the MeCycle, there's nothing wrong with the MeCycle. You're going to have to wait 29 years. If you want to succeed in today's WeCycle, you have to adapt and change to meet the needs of your customer. Roy H. Williams says you need to speak to the meat at the heart of the dog. Now, one of the interesting things that a direct marketer will say with a sales funnel is that you need to get them to make a purchase now. We need to get them to opt in. So we're going to send you to a squeeze page. We're going to do a hard sale, get you to make a transaction because we want your money. Because if we get your money, then at least we've got you to engage. And what I would submit to you, and this is one of the things that we'll discuss, is that's a myopic view of how humans engage. What we know to be true is that there are 4 types of currency when it comes to business. Those currencies that we exchange with our customers are time, energy, information, and money. But the key is understanding which of those currencies are most appropriate where in the relationship. What most traditional internet marketers and direct marketers do, they act like pickup artists, literally like a pickup artist. They flirt with a woman, they go up to the woman, they use manipulative tactics to get the woman in bed. And as a woman, when you were single, you know when the man's intention is to just get you in bed. Similarly, our clients, our customers know when our objectives as business owners is simply to get into their pants, in this case to pull out their wallet. And so when we look at marketing in a WeCycle, it's about being authentic in the engagement of the relationship and respecting them through the process. A sale, in terms of currency, in terms of those 12 steps, doesn't occur from a financial standpoint in our experience until you hit step 8 of those 12 steps of intimacy. In terms of interpersonal relationships with a partner, 8 would be kissing. Literally, what most of us forget in business when we find the man or woman of our dreams, we literally go through at the foundational level 7 steps that create intimacy and trust between the 2 parties before we even kiss. And so the goal is to understand within not only the full 12 steps of intimacy, but the first 7 steps of intimacy, what currency is valid before we have the right to ask for money as a currency. And I'll tell you that if you ask for enough time, time can be more valuable depending on who your audience is than money. The example that we give, and I come from the book industry, is when you ask someone to buy a book. A book is a $20 product, right? It's 20, 25, somewhere in that range, typically speaking. Selling someone a book, what you're not doing is convincing them to spend $20. You're convincing them to spend 4, 6, 8, 10 hours or more reading the book. And it is an inappropriate ask when you're on a radio show, as an example, talking to an audience who is not familiar with you or your content, to say, now that you hear me on this radio show, now go into a Barnes & Noble to buy a book. Roy H. Williams says, to win a customer's money, you must first win their time. And I would also add to that, you must win their trust through time, energy, and information before we have the right to ask them for money. So those are the types of things that we're going to be discussing in our summit call.
I love it. I love it. And I see that Debbie just asked, is time the new currency? You said there are 4 currencies. In your view, which is the most important in this online business space?
I would submit that for most products, time and information. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, his name is Garrett Gunderson. He owns a financial firm out of Utah. And he wrote a book that we put on the bestsellers. It's called Killing Sacred Cows. At step 7 of the 12 steps of intimacy, what he does is he doesn't sell into a step 8 for a book or a product. What he does is he gets them to jump on the phone with one of his coaches, and they go through for an hour, they go through a detailed list of financial information. So if I give you a deep amount of my financial information, my social security number, I tell you my bills, my debts, what my income, where my income is coming in from. All of those things are very intimate, personal information that I'm sharing. So it would be inappropriate for Garrett to ask at that point for money because he's asking for time and, more importantly, a lot of information. So time can be, especially online, in terms of the first, what I would define as 3 or 4 steps of the 12 steps of intimacy. The goal is to know where time is the currency, where information becomes the currency, where energy becomes the currency, and where money becomes the currency. I would submit the step 1, which would be to be seen by your customer, would be time. To see your customer and be seen by your customer is time. One of the biggest mistakes with this that most direct marketers and internet marketers make is asking for an opt-in from their customers too early. It would be like going from flirting with a woman, from across the room and going up and kissing her. I don't have the intimacy or permission to do that. That would likely get me smacked. And if it didn't get me smacked, it would communicate to me that that woman was interested in a transaction. Transactions almost never end up in long-term relationships, right? They can, but according to clinical researchers and psychiatrists, only 5% of couples who skip more than one of 12 steps end up in a long-term relationship. So I would apply that same logic then to businesses as well. That's my experience. Really, what's interesting is the first time you ask for information, you have to have enough trust with your customer to be able to ask for that information, which means that they've invested enough time to say, yes, I think that you have the solution for the problem that I have. And what's interesting is most direct marketers want to ask for information at step 3 or step 4 of the 12 steps. I always ask for information at step 5, which we'll go into much greater detail. I know I'm talking shop here, but much greater detail when we do our call.
Love it, love it. So I think you've given us a lot to kind of chew over before your call, and I know that you're coming up on the summit towards the end. You're on Thursday, July 17th at 12 p.m. Pacific. Thursday, July 17th at 12 p.m. Pacific. And tell us the name of your presentation again.
The 12 Steps of Intimacy.
The 12 Steps of Intimacy, and you're basically teaching people how to create a long-term relationship with their prospects and their customers by easing them into intimacy. Is that it?
That is correct. Here's the bottom line. You, from a business standpoint, you can either be a transaction-based business or a relationship-based business. That doesn't mean that transaction doesn't happen in a relationship-based business, but the goal, the objective, is to build a relationship. Flip McLaughlin, who owns a company called Mech Labs, which one of their divisions is Marketing Sherpa, and I are actually working on a training and a product together, and he calls it the micro yeses, and he's mapped this out for all corporate America. He says every sell, whether you're selling you to a woman, whether you're selling your product to a consumer, whether you're a politician selling yourself to your constituency, has these 12 steps and these 12 micro yeses that you must have in order to have that long-term engagement and relationship with your customer. So again, if you are a transaction-based business, meaning you're a pickup artist, this isn't for you. If you're in business where you need to build a relationship with your audience, then this is the summit for you to come to.
All right, so I know that a lot of people are marking their calendars for Thursday, the 17th of July at noon Pacific to come out and see you and learn the 12 steps of intimacy. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much. People are saying, man, that guy is wicked smart and he's got super cool hair, which is, I know, an extension of your brain, probably. You got to kind of have some aspirational stuff going on up there for sure. So thank you. Definitely go have fun with your daughter for her 10th birthday. We'll all, be singing for her, frolic with some dolphins for us. I know they're smart too.
I will. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing everybody in July.
Likewise. All right. Bye, Michael.
Bye.
All right. So as you can see, the Online Business Superhero Summit is where we're going to be teaching you how to do online business in a different way. Not necessarily the sledgehammer approach of trying to get everybody into bed with you right away, but really building long-term relationships based on trust and value exchange. So that's super important for us here, and that's why we're brought on the superheroes that we are, because we know that they're going to give you massive value and share some things you probably never thought of before, like the we cycles and the me cycles and the stages of intimacy with your clients that Michael just shared. So if you want to make sure that you're on the pre-registration list for the Online Business Superhero Summit and you get these strategies that Michael just shared into kind of a written format that you can start to put into place in your business, make sure to click on the link below this video and put your information in so we can let you know when these events are coming up. All right, so next up we've got Alexis Neely. So Alexis is someone that I've known for a number of years. I think I met her with my very first kind of online business coach a long time ago, and she's pretty amazing. So I'm just going to let Alexis introduce herself and share a little bit about her story of how she kind of rose through the ranks of the online business world, and a couple things that we don't know about her, and there's a lot that we don't know about her. So watch out. Alexis, over to you.
Thanks, Marisa. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. And, I did not start off in the online world. I started in a very traditional offline business. In 2003, I launched a law practice, just 3 years out of law school, and I didn't know anything about business whatsoever. I knew that I had to figure out sales and marketing, and that's where I started. And I took the sales and marketing strategies that I learned from entrepreneurs in different fields, carpet cleaners even, and applied them to my law practice. Ophthalmologists and orthodontists, chiropractors and dentists, anybody that had a service-based business that I saw that they were doing it really in a new and unique way, I wanted to apply it in my law practice. And doing that, I was able to build that law practice into $1 million a year revenue generating business within just 3 years. But I had to go into an office. It was a bricks and mortar business, and I could only impact people on a one-to-one basis when I was doing that. And I knew that I had a big message to bring to the world. I knew that I wanted to be able to work from anywhere like you guys are, location independent. I was a mom. I have little kids at home. I wanted to be able to be home with them. And so I started to think about how can I branch out beyond this one-to-one bricks and mortar business model and really leverage my time and my talent, my information, my knowledge. What could I do? And I began to see that online was the answer. So in 2006, I began to explore the world of bringing my business online, and I made a huge number of mistakes along the way. I remember when I launched my first product, and I'd spent about $15,000 to build it. And that was before I ever sold a single one. I didn't know really how to sell any of them, but I knew what I wanted to create. I knew I wanted to teach parents across the world really how to make sure their kids would be taken care of if anything would happen to them, and not just have them come into my office. And so I spent all this money creating the product. So many of us who are wanting to come into the online world do that. We create our product first. That was my first really big mistake, because then I had this beautiful product created, and I really didn't know how to sell it. I put up my long form sales letter, just like they say to do, and I sold one. Now, that one was really exciting because that was a $397 sale, and, well, I only had to invest $15,000 and lots of hours to make that sale, but then I figured I could do it again and again, but I didn't really know how. So fast forward a few weeks, actually a month or so, and I decided I need to go figure out how to sell online. And I went to an event. It cost me $3,000 to go to this event, a week out of my office. And back then, that was a lot of money for me. I had just gotten divorced. I had never spent a week out of my office before. Like, that was a really scary idea. And I went to this event because I had this sense that learning in person was going to be the answer. But I got there, and I was learning all the same things that I had learned from the teacher I was learning from online and in his courses and in his books. So I was really frustrated until I met somebody that was the right person to hold my hand through the process. And I hired him to the tune of $30,000. So these were some pretty big investments I was making. Used my line of credit to do that, figuring, well, here's a guy who's done it. And if he can help me to be able to sell this product online, recover my investment that I've already made, and then make a lot more money, then $30,000 is a good investment. I'll make that back quickly. And that's how I always thought of investing in my business. And so I made that investment. And on our first VIP day together, he actually made me throw out the product that I had created. Now, not throw it in the garbage. He said I could come back to it in the future, but he said, that is not the place for you to start. And I was heartbroken because I had invested so much time and energy already in creating this. He said, you don't create the product first. The first thing that you need to do is to create your sales and marketing. Now, this was a big wake-up call for me because how could I create my sales and marketing first when I don't even have the product yet? He said, you'll see. Do it like this. He said, pick a date that we're going to have a teleseminar. And so he made me pick a date that was way too soon. I was not going to be ready. It was just 2 months in the future, even I think 7 weeks in the future, the beginning of November 2006. And we're going to launch a product, and it's not going to be done. And my heart was beating. I was just shaking. He said, what is the one thing that your marketplace that you know that they need, that you do extraordinarily well, better than anybody else, that's going to provide a lot of value? And I realized that I had created a product for families, a course for families, when what I really needed to do was to create a course that would train other lawyers. Because I had created a system in my own practice where I knew how to engage the people who came into my practice and at higher fees and provide a better service than anybody else in my community. He said, that's what you're going to teach. Now, I didn't have any teaching materials ready for this. I had some outlines, I had some ideas. He said, don't worry. The whole process of creating your sales and your marketing is what's going to create the product itself. And I said, okay, I'm just going to follow your lead. And so I did. And 7 weeks later, on that very first teleseminar that I ever did, I'd never done a teleseminar before, we did $117,000 in sales. And I remember running as a life changer. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because I was so afraid that on that teleseminar, that one of two things would happen. One is that I would sell nothing. And the other thing I was afraid of is that I would sell one thing, because then I'd have to create the whole product for one person. But I didn't. We did $117,000 in sales. And then we went on over the next 6 weeks to do about $250,000 total of this product, which continues to be my flagship product in the marketplace where we serve lawyers. It teaches them how to engage clients in a new way. And that was a life changer because it changed the way I do everything in my businesses today. Today we have more than one business, not just serving lawyers, but serving also those who want to break free of the limitations around financial freedom and instead find something that we call financial liberation, which I'll be talking about here on the summit. And now, instead of operating like the perfectionist I was, I operate much more like Microsoft and Apple. When you think about it, when Microsoft and Apple release a new iteration of their software or product, they don't wait until it's perfect. They launch a version. They launch a beta version or the next version and the next version, and the early adopters get in, and some people complain, and then they learn what to do to make it better. And others keep it, and they're thrilled. And so we learned a tremendous amount from those first people that brought that first iteration of our client engagement system. I'll be honest, about half of the people returned the system. Half. Because it was really, I didn't know how to put together a curriculum or train people, but the other half of the people who were able to make it through the material started sending in unsolicited testimonials of how they were able to increase their engagement rates from 50% to 90%. Up to 100% engagement rates. They were increasing their fees from where they used to charge $850 for something up to $3,000. And they felt better about the service that they were providing than ever before. So we knew what we had worked if we could figure out how to package it in a way that everybody with all different learning styles could digest it. That's a solvable problem. And so, of course, we did that now, and over the years, it's been many years, and the product has improved substantially, and there's all different multimedia and learning modalities, and people of all different learning styles can access it. That's really the biggest lesson that I learned coming online. And so I no longer serve clients as a lawyer. I did sell my law practice once I got into the online world. Instead, today I train lawyers on that new law business model that I created, going beyond just engaging clients to really changing the way that lawyers interact with their clients so that lawyers no longer are just shuffling paperwork and that sort of thing, but truly helping their clients to be better parents, better business people, and better citizens of their community. And most importantly, the work that's really nearest and dearest to my heart is helping people to break free of the idea that they have to wait until they save enough for retirement, pay off all their credit cards, and have their house paid off, and have enough in the bank to be financially free, but instead can live a life of financial liberation today.
I love it. So you're definitely a woman who knows her stuff, and you've been in this business for a long time, and I've watched you change business models, change business topics, and kind of evolve as an entrepreneur as well, and show more and more aspects of yourself and who you are, and expressing yourself in larger ways through your business. And is there anything that we don't know about you that you'd like to share?
Oh, Marisa, you're asking a leading question here. Yeah, so...
We actually create some kind of fun backstories for you in the email sequence, so we need some juicy stuff to go off of.
Okay, good. That's exciting. So, sure, what you guys might not know about me that I'm happy to share here is that over the years, so all of that I was just talking about kind of led up to this 2009. I was super successful in the traditional sense, appearing on TV in all the top television networks, you know, Today Show, Good Morning America. My businesses were doing $2 million a year, and I built this real brand, this real image, this real persona around Alexis Neely. It's the name that I was born with and then married into, and yet there was this voice in the back of my head that was saying, "There's something else. This success feels empty. This is not what you came here to do. You didn't come here to this world now to go on TV and gossip about Tiger Woods' divorce, just to coach lawyers to make more money. This is not who you are, Alexis. What are you doing? You're wasting your life on this external form of success. When are you going to step into the real you?" Now, I didn't have any idea what this voice was talking about. Who is this real me? What do you mean? I'm being successful. I wrote a best-selling book. Come on. What else is there? And yet I knew that there was more. And it turns out that I had to let go of everything that I had built in order to find out what that was. So from the period of about 2010 to 2012, I did that. I shed all of it. I brought my companies down to the littlest that they could possibly be, because I kept hearing people in my businesses saying, "Alexis, you can't do that. Alexis, you can't wear that. Alexis, you can't say that. Alexis, you can't write that. You'll hurt the business." And that isn't why I went into business. I didn't go into business to be trapped by the trappings of success. I went into business to be able to be fully expressed, to be able to be all of who I really am. And I didn't even know who I was. So that was very confusing for me. So in order to find out who I was and what I really stood for, I decided that the answer was to let go of everything I thought was important and get myself to a place where money was off the table. I was no longer making any decisions based on money whatsoever, which meant that I needed to shrink my expenses back to the littlest they could be, because when you're running $2 million worth of businesses, what that means is that you're writing checks of at least $1 million a year. At least. I mean, that's really what makes the difference between a $100,000 business owner and $1 million business owner. It's the size of the checks that you're writing or the amount of credit card that you're running, because your profit margins are generally going to be around 1/3 to 50%. That means you're spending the rest of that what's coming in. Nobody ever taught me that, but I found out very quickly that in order to maintain a business of that size, you have to spend that kind of money. So in order to take money off the table, what I had to do was shrink my expenses back to as little as they could possibly be. And I went and I lived on a farm for a year. I stopped paying all of my bills other than what was necessary. I connected with my community very deeply. I didn't really have any community before that. I didn't really have any friends before that. Everybody that I was friendly with was friends from a business perspective. It was like, what can I give you? What can I get from you? What can you get from me? What can I get from you, etc. And it was all transactional, you know, like Michael was talking about. It was very transactional. Even though I thought I was a relationship-oriented person, what I had built in my life was based on transaction. And Marisa, you and I knew each other back then, but I don't think we got close by any means, because I didn't get close with anybody. It was all about the business. And that was painful. It didn't feel good at all. But I really didn't know another way. That is what I had understood success was. So when I went and I lived on the farm for a year and started to really connect with community here in Colorado, I moved out of LA. I came to Colorado, started to really reconnect deeply with my kids, started to really reconnect deeply with myself. I found a whole other version of myself. Her name is Ali Shanti. And most of the time today I go by Ali. I use Alexis Neely still for business because people in business know Alexis Neely. And what's funny is that today, as I am Alexis Neely, Ali Shanti is here all the time. A while back that wasn't the case. There was kind of this separation. There was Alexis Neely and there was Ali Shanti, and I didn't really understand how the two interacted. And so when I was Alexis Neely, I'd blow my hair out straight and put on all my makeup, and I'd put on my Alexis Neely superhero costume, right? But over the past couple of years, the journey for me as I've come back into the world, I left the farm. I filed bankruptcy while I was there. And I came back out into the world, and I learned how to integrate Alexis Neely and Ali Shanti. So today, I'm both Alexis Neely and Ali Shanti. I've rebuilt those businesses, different businesses. I reconstructed them with different models because the models I had built did not work. They were based on the old paradigm that if that's what we try to build our businesses on, they will crumble. You will not be able to maintain it unless you are truly some kind of a superhero with a heart of steel. It's simply not sustainable. As we really truly move into this we economy, into the new paradigm, what we'll find, what I believe that you'll find, is that it has to be built on relationship, but not just, I don't think just the kind of relationship that Michael Drew is talking about, although that is the foundation, the kind of relationship that is with yourself, where you truly can be all of who you are without shame, without doubt, without fear, without worry that people aren't going to like you, people aren't going to understand you, that in fact, that is what people want from you, and you can't do it alone. So it's not just about being in relationship with your clients and your prospects and your referral sources. It's about being in a relationship with your team and your community. So today, the two businesses that exist aren't even my businesses. They do similar things to what the other businesses did, and I still have those old other businesses as well. But what the businesses today do, they're run by entire teams of people that care about those businesses as much as I do, maybe even more, honestly, than I do. They still serve lawyers and teach lawyers a new law business model. The other one still serves entrepreneurs and teaches new paradigm business models and legal insurance and financial and tax systems. I'm not the CEO of those businesses. I'm just on the team. I might be the face because that's my particular role, but I'm operating in my type, and I know exactly how much money I need to be bringing in, not so that I can go out there and sell as much as I possibly can and take as much as I can for myself, but so that the entire company, the entire ecosystem that we've created can be supported in a sustainable way. So today, those businesses are back to making more than $2 million a year in revenue. But I don't feel trapped by it anymore because I'm able to be fully myself. They aren't even my businesses. I have access to them. They're able to serve the work that I'm here to do in the world, but not just the work that I'm here to do in the world, the work that the entire team is here to do in the world. I'm just part of it. And I'm operating in my own entrepreneurial archetype as well as every member of the team is as well. And each person is receiving from the business what they need so that they can live a life of true financial liberation as well, knowing that they can earn what they need, when they need it, on demand, none of us feeling as if we have to hoard the resources of the company for our own personal gain, but sharing them as much as we can, as much as possible, so that everyone benefits and we're able to create more as a result.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing all that. I so just respect and admire the transformation that you've made in your personal life, in your business. I've watched you over the last 5 years since I first met you, and you are a role model for a lot of people to express more of themselves through their business, and you've kind of towed the line of going as far as you possibly can in self-expression, and you've also towed the line in terms of creating more of a community model of business that frees you to have a life as well as being an incredibly successful businesswoman, and I admire that. So can you quickly just share what you're going to be talking about on the Online Business Superhero Summit, because it relates to those kind of entrepreneurial archetypes that you just talked about, and knowing how much money you need to make so you can make that, but not necessarily slave yourself to the business to take and take and take. And so for those of you who are just coming on, Alexis Neely is going to be opening up the Online Business Superhero Summit on Monday, July 7th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. All the presentations this time are going to be at noon Pacific, so it's easy to remember. All right, so let us know what you're going to be talking about and why people should come.
Great. So on that day, I'm going to be talking about financial liberation and how you can discover your own path to sovereignty in the new economy. And you're going to be able to identify your own personal money map number, at least get a starting point towards being able to do that, because that's the key to you not being tied to some external forms of success. Oh, I'll be successful when I have a six-figure business. I'll be successful when I have a seven-figure business. No, you'll be successful when you're earning what you need, when you need it on demand, by giving the amount of time that you actually have to earn that. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, we'll be talking about your personal entrepreneurial archetype and how that will tell you what business model should you build. Should it be a bricks and mortar one-to-one? Should it be a one-to-many model like this? If you are going to come online, there's so many different models. There's programs, there's products, there's courses, there's telesummits, there's teleseminars, there's all of these different things. There's licensing, there's certification. But what's right for you? Should you be a virtual assistant, an online business manager, working behind the scenes, in front of the scenes? What is your true definition of success? We're going to be talking about that, financial liberation, discovering your path to sovereignty in the new economy.
Wow, so I know I've got to be there because I'm going to be hosting, but even if I didn't have to be there, I would be there. And we're getting some great feedback from the chat. Anne just says, oh my God, we came for online business facts and we're getting life wisdom, so moving and valuable. Infinite Passion says, wow, thank you, Alexis Neely and Ali Shanti, for sharing your personal, powerful story. Love this. So Ali and Alexis, both of them are going to be on the line on Monday, July 7th at 12 p.m. Pacific. And Alexis, when I first met her, was Alexis, and then she became Ali, and she's laughing at me because I never know what to call her. But she's both, and she's managed to fuse life and passion and expression in business, and she's really going to kick off the summit by showing you not how to just find your entrepreneurial archetype, but understand what business model is going to serve you and the kind of life that you want to live and who you are as a person, so it's sustainable and you don't run yourself into the ground trying to do, say, an info product business model if that's not the right model for you. And I really wanted to start the summit in that way because a lot of people take it for granted or never give thought to their business model, and then they end up burned out and exhausted. I know I've gotten to a few points of exhaustion in my business, and that's why I ran away to the south of France for 2 months, and hopefully I'm going to come back refreshed and recharged and ready to kind of host the summit with a glow about me rather than like, bags under my eyes and things like that. So if you want to pre-register for the summit and make sure you get all the information that we've got coming out, including the strategies that Alexis just shared on the line in the Online Business Playbook, just right below this video, there's a pre-registration link. Just pre-register there, and as soon as we start sending out stuff about the summit, you'll get it. And remember, mark your calendars. Alexis is on Monday, July 7th at noon Pacific, and you're definitely going to want to check her out because she's got a lot of wisdom and experience to share. So thank you so much, Alexis, and we've got a lot of love in the chat box that you might want to check out. All right.
Thank you. See you all on July 7th.
Thank you, Ali. All right, so next up we've got the amazing nunchuck-wielding Ryan Levesque. So for those of you who haven't met Ryan yet, Ryan was on the Traffic Superhero Summit, and he just blew everybody away. And so because of that, we wanted to bring him back to share everything that he's got to share about creating funnels that really kind of get people into your world and get them buying from you. So Ryan, Tell us a little bit about your story in the online business world, how you got where you are today, and a few things that we don't know about you.
Let me unmute my microphone.
Always helps.
So first of all, thanks so much for having me here. Super appreciate being here, and thrilled to be back. I had such a good time last time, and I'd never really done anything like this before. As you'll see in a moment, as I kind of explain my backstory and what I do, it's very different and normal from my sort of a departure from my normal day-to-day type work. But how I got into internet marketing, my story, I guess, like Allie's, is somewhat unique in the sense that I was never planning on getting into internet marketing. I actually started in a traditional career at university. I studied neuroscience. I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon and go to medical school, and I decided along the way that that really wasn't for me, and was trying to figure out, well, what the hell am I going to do with my life? So I worked on Wall Street and worked for the investment bank Goldman Sachs, and at the same time I had this burning itch that I wanted to live and work in China, so I spent 5 years working in China, and I was in a job where I was basically running around the country, opening up sales offices for an insurance company, and I was living out of hotels. I was tethered to the BlackBerry. I was on a plane every single week. At the time I was married. My wife was getting her PhD in Hong Kong. I was up in Shanghai, and we were seeing each other every couple weeks, and I reached a point where I was totally burnt out. I was making a lot of money, and this is sort of, I guess, in line with Allie's story. I was making a lot of money, very successful in the traditional sense, but it just didn't feel right. And at the time I had a few friends who were quote-unquote making money on the internet, and they were making as much money as I was, if not more money, but they were just living the internet lifestyle. They were able to travel when they wanted. They didn't have to wear a suit every single day. I was wearing a suit, a full men's suit every single day. It didn't matter if it was 100 degrees outside. And I said, I don't want any of this. So I started going down the path of learning the world of online marketing, and because my wife and I were in 2 different countries, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I'd come home from work and I wasn't going to go out to bars. I wasn't going to go out to meet people. So I came home to this empty house with nothing to do. So I decided I would use my free time to learn internet marketing, and specifically really become a master at copywriting. And I developed my craft. I developed that skill as a copywriter. And eventually I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I spent some money on some courses which were a waste of money and didn't work. But eventually I stumbled upon a mentor by the name of Dr. Glenn Livingston, who had a method to enter niche markets in a relatively low-risk way. And that really resonated with me, because I'm not a big risk-taking type personality. I kind of like to have everything planned out so that I'm lining up everything so that what I'm going to do, I know is going to be successful. And he had a methodology for entering into different niche markets that resonated with me. So long story short, I studied his methodology. I ended up hiring him and working with him for 2 years as a mentor, and I entered into 3 different niche markets, 3 for 3 with success: jewelry making, gardening, and memory improvement. And each of those businesses, the second 2 businesses, grew to mid-6-figure businesses. The first business was a small 5-figure business, and I had a lot of success. And I thought that that was going to be what I do. I was going to enter into these niche markets, and this was going to be my little mini online business empire. But along the way, I started attending different masterminds and meeting people, and people started hearing what I did and how I had this methodology to successfully enter any new market, start any new project, and do it successfully. So people started asking me, well, what would it cost to hire you to do what you've done for your businesses for my business? And in about 2009, 2010, my focus shifted to doing that. And long story short, in the last 23 months, I've managed to successfully enter 17 new markets, generating 2 million leads and 175,000 customers using the methodology that I'm going to be teaching in the Online Business Superhero Summit. And I'll talk a little bit more about what's involved with that. But that's the short answer, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions.
All right, I don't think I heard any juicy stories or shares around something that we don't know about you.
Juicy shares about something we don't know about me. Man, you want me to dig out some dirt, huh? Gosh, nothing as good as having like a second name. I mean, I like to go by Bruce Lee, but people look at me and they kind of laugh. I don't have the physique or the martial arts skills to have to be called that in person.
You
Let's
also
see.
do a really great rendition of What Does the Fox Say, I think.
Yeah, I think when that was first hitting the scene, I introduced you and Murray to that. What's funny is that my 2.5-year-old son is like obsessed with that, and he has to watch it on YouTube on repeat like 50 times in a row. So I think I know that song by heart. I speak Chinese. I can actually pretty much fool probably 95% of people. If I'm talking, clearly I'm a white guy with a little bit of facial hair right now. I'm a white guy, but I can fool probably 95% of native Chinese speakers on the phone that I'm not Chinese. Because although my Chinese superpower in terms of speaking Chinese was I never had the best vocabulary. I never had the best grammar. I was never the most, I didn't have the largest vocabulary from a writing perspective. My superpower was that I'm really good at mimicking voices. And I could mimic different Chinese dialects really well. So when we traveled to different cities, I could get on the phone with someone and I could replicate a Beijing dialect or a Shanghainese dialect or a Southern Chinese dialect. And when people would meet me in person, they would, inevitably be shocked to see that this is the face that they're looking at because they were expecting some Chinese guy. So I know it's not quite as exciting and juicy as a second name that I might go by, but that's what I can come up with right now.
All good. And you also studied neuroscience, and you're just a big, dork like me.
Total dork. Yeah, Marisa and I both went to the same school, and I'm actually tomorrow headed to our college reunion. So it's gonna be
Ooh.
fun to go back to Brown and see the old Neuro building and the old Chinese building.
Except you started the year after I graduated, so I've actually got something like four or 5 years on Ryan. Oh my God. All
Though you don't
right,
look it though.
Thank you. Yes, internet marketing keeps you young. And it's not just all those scam beauty creams either. All right, so next question is, what is one kind of online business strategy that you want to share that might kind of help people avoid making some of the huge mistakes that are out there in this world and kind of avoid some of the sort of snake oil that's being sold and actually have a successful business relatively quickly doing, something that you're really ninja at?
Sure, for sure. So on my talk, I'm going to be talking about 4 specific, slightly unusual surveys that I use in basically every market that I go into in order to guarantee success. And I'm going to be teaching what those are so people can replicate that. Between now and then, what I wanted to do was leave people with a very specific strategy that they can use between now and the talk, and then we can talk about the results they get using that strategy once we get on together. And it's basically this. If you're getting people onto any sort of email list in your business, so you're asking people to opt in to any sort of email list, and what I think is interesting to tie what the type of funnels that I build to what Michael was talking about, I think it's interesting because one of the things that differentiates the way I sort of approach things, and I think which fits hand in glove with what Michael is saying, is that most people out there try to push their solution down your throat. They say, look at my weight loss pill, look at my info product, this is the best thing since sliced bread, here's why you should buy it. The reason why the approach that I take has worked so well is instead of doing that, we sort of take a step back and we say, time out a second. Before I can tell you whether or not my product, my solution, my service is right for you, I need to get to know who you are a little bit more. If you tell me a little bit about your situation, about who you are, then I can tailor the information that I give to you. And when you do that, it sort of takes people aback because they're expecting you to jam your solution down their throat. But when you do that, it's sort of disarming. So how do you do that short of replicating my entire funnel process from beginning to end, which we're going to be talking about on the webinar? Well, here's a very simple way that you can do this. If you're adding people to any sort of email list in any way, shape, or form, after you send out that first email on autopilot through some sort of autoresponder system, whether it's Aweber or Infusionsoft or Office Autopilot, 2 hours after that first email, send a second email. And the email says this. Hey, we'll just say the prospect's name is Janet. Hey, Janet, it's Ryan here. A couple hours ago, I sent you an email with some information, and I just wanted to make sure that you got it. Will you do me a favor? Will you just hit reply to this email to let me know that I sent it to the right place? Oh, and by the way, when you send that email, will you tell me what's the single biggest question that you have about XYZ subject, whatever it is that you talk about in your business? If you do that, I'll make it a point to answer your question and tailor the information that you get from me in the coming days and weeks. And that's it. All you do is you send that second email. What's the reason for doing that? It does three things. Number one, by getting that sort of feedback, you're going to be getting constant feedback from your marketplace to help you determine how you need to shape your marketing going forward. Are you answering those questions that are coming in? Are you doing a good job in your email sequence? Are you doing a good job with your sales letter? You're getting that constant feedback coming in all the time. It's invaluable, and I'll explain what to do with that feedback in the webinar. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, simply by asking that question, you're demonstrating that you're a real person on the other end of that communication. And by doing that, that's going to differentiate you from everybody else in your marketplace. Because ask yourself, how many times, how many lists have you signed up for where someone's done that? Almost never, right? Now here's the kicker. If you're sending those emails that you get from people to a monitored email box, the next step is just reply back. Hey Janet, thanks so much for your note. Super appreciate it, Ryan. People will be blown away. It's no different than if you write to Marisa or Murray or anybody that you are learning from and they write back to you. Think about that. That memory sticks in your mind. It builds that relationship that Michael was talking about. It's a super brain dead easy way to do that. And by asking people to hit reply, it's a super low threshold way to do it. So if someone's reading your email on their iPhone, they don't need to log into any software. They don't need to click on a link and do anything. All they're doing is hitting reply to the email. Super simple. The third thing that this does, and this is a thing that's sort of kind of ninja about it that nobody really realizes, is it helps whitelist your emails. One of the most difficult things today, if you're an email marketer, if you do any sort of email in your marketing, is actually getting your emails delivered. If your emails are just going to people's spam folders or they're being blocked by the ESPs altogether, it doesn't matter how good your copy is, it doesn't matter how good your message is, it doesn't matter how good your product is, they're never going to find out about it. But when you transform one-way email communication into two-way email communication by getting them to reply back to you, all of a sudden the Gmails, the Hotmails, the Yahoo Mails of the world, they say, well, time out a second. This is a real email conversation. We're going to send this to the primary inbox. So it's a ninja way to get your stuff whitelisted into someone's primary email inbox. So super duper simple strategy. You can implement it in less than an hour. Send that email 2 hours after the first welcome email that goes out when people sign up for your list. And we'll talk about what to do with those results when we get to the webinar.
All right, so I'm going to give that a try. We're definitely going to put that into our sequence for sure. And I love hearing from my audience, and we definitely, it's not even just giving lip service, but actually taking into consideration the kind of information they send your way. It's amazing market research to hear directly from people who are saying, yes, I'm interested in what you're saying. Tell me more.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah. So tell us what you're going to be talking about on your presentation. And I know you're going on Wednesday, July 16th at 12 p.m. Pacific. That's Wednesday, July 16th at 12 p.m. Pacific. So if you want to see Ryan in action, and I definitely recommend that you see Ryan in action, not just because he's got some amazing biceps, but the dude is smart and he knows his stuff. And I see Alexis Neely is in the chat trying to recruit Ryan to come and work with her. So that happens behind the scenes, you know. Superheroes are getting poached over here, so I'm hoping I can keep him around for the presentation. But can you share what you're going to be covering on the presentation and why everybody should, you know, mark their calendars now and come out?
Sure, absolutely. So like Marisa mentioned at the beginning of the call, she invited me to present at the Traffic Superhero Summit, which was what, like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago? Something like that?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So it was a couple months ago, and to my knowledge, it was the best performing presentation in terms of the number of people who enrolled in the program. And one of the things that surprised me about that is I'm not a teacher. I'm someone who does this, who does what I do for 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses. My clients include the #1 golf instruction site in the world, the #2 satellite TV provider in the United States, the #1 tennis instruction site in the world, the #1 alkaline health company in the UK, the #3 business funding provider online, and about 20 other businesses that range from small businesses to large businesses, many of which are 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses. So what I taught in the actual course was how to replicate my funnel system. But what I realized in the process is that a lot of the students, a lot of the people that went through that program were launching new businesses, new projects, or breaking into new markets. And so as a result, I kind of modified what I intended on teaching in that program and added the component of what do you do if you're starting from scratch? What do you do if you don't have a 7, 8, or 9-figure business? And so what I wanted to do this time in this talk is do everything that was so appealing to people in the last talk, explaining how to use my survey funnel formula process, but then combine that with that additional piece, how to break into a new market, start a new project, get into a new business using my formula, which has been successful in 17 non-IM markets with a 100% success rate. So that's what I'm going to be talking. The title of my talk, I typed it out so I don't flub it up on the call here, is How I Successfully Entered 17 Non-IM Markets with 100% Success, Generating 2 million leads and 175,000 customers using these 4 slightly unusual surveys. And that is it.
All right, Ryan. So we've got a lot of love in the chat box. People who were on your last presentation, who went through your product, to just say you've got one of the best products out there in the internet marketing space. So people love you. Yes, and that's going to be on Wednesday, July 16th at noon Pacific. And remember, if you want to pre-register for the Online Business Superhero Summit, it's completely free to see all 10 of these presenters, which is kind of amazing. And I hustled for you guys for like months to get the best of the best here. But if there's a link right below the video and you can kind of pre-register, and as soon as we start sending out emails about the Online Business Superhero Summit, you'll be the first to know. But in the meantime, mark your calendars for between July 7th and July 18th, the weekdays, at noon Pacific every single day, because you're going to want to come and stay for the chats. And I know a lot of our presenters stay and answer all of the questions and offer some specials and things that you can't get anywhere else. So thank you so much, Ryan. You're the bomb. And as you can see, we're really trying to show you how to do online business in a different way, not to just kind of run around trying a bunch of approaches, throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping some stuff will stick, but really getting strategic and figuring out how you can leverage your time and really scale your business without doing a lot of stuff, say, like maintaining a Facebook page that isn't getting you anywhere. So this stuff is the real deal, and we've really carefully thought out the entire 2-week-long curriculum. So we're bringing you all the main areas of online business, from what Alexis talked about, which she's going to be opening the summit with, which is your entrepreneurial archetype and choosing a business model that allows you to live the kind of life that you want and that's sustainable for you, to what Ryan talked about, which is a particular way to kind of pre-qualify people coming to your site and deliver what they express interest in rather than shoving your offers down their throat, to really kind of give people what they want, which is obviously the best way to build a profitable online business, to what Michael Drew is talking about of the 12 steps of intimacy and growing relationships with your audience rather than going right for the jugular, kind of stepping them into relationship with you so they're going to be around for a long time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all 10 of these presenters, and I am going to be speaking on the summit this time. I'm going to be going on Friday, the last day, at noon Pacific, and I'm going to be talking about some pretty ninja stuff as well as releasing something that you guys have been asking me for a really long time, and I spent like 6 months or 12 months trying to figure out how to do it in a way that was going to be affordable, and we finally cracked the code thanks to my husband Murray on how to do this. But I'm not going to say anything more. You'll have to kind of come out, and I'm going to be on the final pre-summit hangout. We also have another pre-summit hangout in exactly a week. So that's going to be on the 29th of May on Thursday at noon Pacific. Come out and hear some behind-the-scenes stories and really get to know our presenters, because they've got some stories to tell. And when you hear where they came from Michael Drew working at Burger King, it's kind of amazing where they've gone, and you can do the same thing if you get strategic and you really leverage your time and learn from people who are the real deal. And these are the 10 superheroes that we're bringing to you. So thank you so much. Make sure to pre-register. Come out to Facebook, both our page and our group, facebook.com/group/superhero summits, and use the kind of social sharing buttons there too, which will connect us all together. And we're going to be having a lot of fun over the next couple of months leading up into the summer, sharing some crazy graphics and telling some fun stories. And definitely kind of stay posted, stay engaged, keep calm, and pleather on. All right. Later, everybody.
Awesome. See you guys.